crime fighters exposing the antics of crime and criminality.
Friends, ladies and gentlemen, now stay tuned to Crime Fighters.
Title Crime Fighters simply connotes fighting crime in a different form, in a different way. We have a society that absolutely did not believe in the police. It was difficult for members of the public to believe the police. Again, because of the reputation they had in their dealings with Nigerians. And so I saw this wild gap between the police, the media, and members of the public. In actual fact, there was nothing the police said that the press believed, even if it was real, even if it was the truth. And again, I saw that Nigerians are actually very, very vulnerable. Nigerians don't take security as a serious business. Nigerians believe that they could leave their doors wide open and robbers get in, and they think police would perform the magic. And so I just felt that the best thing to do was come up with a TV program that would be able to send the message across to Nigerians and also get Nigerians to understand the plight of the police force. Members of the public still find it a bit difficult to take hook, line, and sinker what the police says, even with crime fighters being around for 3 years. So you can imagine what it was then.
The police didn't really have the images. Everybody wants to keep the police at an arm's length.
And so crime fighters came to be to bridge that gulf between the public and the police. And so when I came up with the synopsis, I met a few of my friends amongst the senior officers. And of course, M.A.K. Smith was one person I discussed the synopsis with. Unfortunately, he was not in a position to assist. He was then a CP, then later became an AIG of Zone 1. And so when it was obvious that we're going to have civilian government in, the first thing that struck me was, fine, here is a police force that has been associated with all sorts, you know, with 419, terrorism, and so whoever was going to be the IG then would have an Herculean task to perform. And for members of the public to actually embrace the police force, the police needs its own medium to communicate. And so I went back to the cooler again, brought out my synopsis, crossed the T's and dotted the I's, and waiting for whoever was going to be the IG. At the end of the day, Smith became the IG. But of course, I also approached other senior officers at the top echelon who felt that they could, they gave it as, it was seen as getting secret information, as it were, you know, then Nigeria government tagged everything secrets.
You're dealing with bureaucracy. Well, I was expecting a lot of bureaucracy, and that really worried me and was going to be the turnoff.
And so the first thing that struck me was Mr. M.A.K. Smith's personality. While he was the CP, CIB, and AIG Zone 1, he was somebody that was careful, that wasn't interacting much with the press. Not because he was shy of the press, because it was somebody that didn't believe in this brown envelope thing. He believed that you should do your job, whether it's right or wrong, go to write whatever you feel about him. And so I saw a Mr. Smith who was going to have the difficulty passing or getting across to the press, especially with the kind of journalists that we had. And so when Smith was announced the IG, and I said, yeah, he's my friend. And what do I do to help a friend? I allowed Mr. M.A.K. Smith's administration to settle down. 3 months or 4 months into their tenure, I then approached him with the synopsis. I called his attention back to the synopsis I had earlier presented to him when he was AIG Zone 1. And he said, yes, what about it? I said, okay, this is the time for us to actualize the dream. And he said, yes, but I don't have money. You know, government had not released money. I said, yes, but okay, all I want you to do for me, sir, I don't need your money, is to just give me an approval that I can go ahead and do this program. Because hitherto, even now, it's on record that nobody had access to the police force. Contact between the police force and members of the public had always been through press conferences or press releases. And so, but I wanted much more. I wanted to have access to the suspect. I wanted to have access to the cells. I wanted to have access to those things that members of the public have been clamoring for. They want to know how the cells look like. They want to hear suspect talk. They want to see if it was real. Members of the public never believed there was anything called armed robbers. They actually thought that they were spirits. And so I needed to prove to members of the public that we do have robbers live amongst us. So I approached a colleague of mine, Mr. Adeoyeluga, and I said to him, this is my idea, this is what I have. I need you to introduce me to a director. And he said, oh, it is pretty difficult to get a director in this industry that you can actually, you know, work with. But then I have about 6 or 7 of them. And so we went around, you know, shopping for directors. I met the 6th person, and the 7th person was Tade Ogidon. Of course, along the line, meeting these directors, some of them, you know, felt, you know, this is a young lady, you know, seeing me, you think I have that kind of amount of money, you know, stocked somewhere. And so they were giving me figures that was actually scary. Some said, if you want to put up this program that you're talking about, you need £30,000, you need £40,000, you need £15,000, you know, those scary figures. And I just said, okay, but that didn't deter me. I was not deterred. My spirit was not down because, of course, I knew what I wanted. And so by the time we got to Mr. Ogidon and we got talking, and the first thing he asked was, how much do you intend to invest? And I said to him, I had £4,000. And he said, well, I don't think £4,000 will be able to buy the kind of equipment that you would need to start with. But anyhow, we can work around the £4,000.
When Tosan came and mentioned her idea, I thought, nah, well, maybe for what is worth. Let's see what we can do.
What attracted me most to Mr. Tade Ogidon was his simplicity, was his thoughtfulness, was that thing, you know, that's, I will work within the £4,000 that you have. So a week later, I got back to him and I said, Mr. Ogidon, I am ready to work with you. And he said, okay, if you are ready, we would have to go to London to buy the equipment. And I said, no problem. Fortunately enough, he had his own visa. I had my visa. We didn't have to go to the embassy to queue to obtain visas. And so we were in London. And while in London for a month and a half, almost 2 months, we were shopping for the equipment and also brainstorming on things to do.
And in England, we brainstormed ideas, and it was getting more interesting. It could be nice if we bring in the confession bits. It would be nice if we can have access to criminals and talk to them. It would be nice if we can make police talk to the people in a very friendly manner.
Eventually, we shopped and we came back to Nigeria, put up the equipment, rented an apartment as an office, and we went back to Mr. Smith again. I told him, this is what I've done. I've been able to shop for some equipment, and we want to start recording. And I said to him, the only thing again you're going to do for me, Mr. Smith, is to give me vehicles and drivers that will take us to the length and breadth of the country. And so he did. And so the first 8 months of Crime Fighters was us traveling around the country. In actual fact, we were in about, if were in about 30 states of Nigeria, recording, visiting commands, and eventually we came back, put all we had done together, and went back to Abuja to show to them what we had.
Yeah, like I said to Tosan, just give me a little bit of room to put together a pilot episode the police will see and never ever turn back. And she goes, okay, let's see what you're going to come up with now. And so we started at it. It was quite challenging. We needed to do reconstruction of actual stories. We needed to interview people. We needed to get to the police colleges across the country, talk to officers and the junior staff across the country. You see, it made the initial set of episodes very, very challenging to do.
And the first episode was what actually got through to the top echelon of the police force. They couldn't believe that the police force could come that beautifully well. And again, one thing that actually touched all of them was that news segment. You know, I came up with the news segment because when you see the rank and file, when you have any problem, when Nigerians talk about the rank and file, the first thing they say about them is they behave like that because they're stark illiterate, because they don't know what they're doing. And again, I needed to change the orientation of the rank and file, the officers. I needed to let them believe in themselves. And how do I go about it? Get the policemen to read the news themselves. Let them put on their uniforms. Let them appeal to Nigerians. You know, there are ways you sell yourself. And I felt the only way for police to get to the heart of Nigerians is to sell themselves. And by wearing their uniforms and casting news. And that actually thrilled the top echelon of the force. When you're doing something, you must believe in what you're doing. You see, it's not, you don't wait to reap immediately. You reap later. I have a passion that I want to see the police force accepted. I want to bridge that gap between members of the public. I want the public to be security conscious. And so I didn't have to bother about whether there's sponsorship or there's no sponsorship. Of course, we had our problems, and we still have it now. You know, running a program all through the week, all through the month, all through the year without having sponsorship and without having to repeat an episode is not easy. You see, recording around the country without having to base it, as it were, like a Lagos base is not easy. So it wasn't easy raising funds. It was something that I had to, you know, personally sacrifice in the sense that when I have some money that is expected or that is meant to be for me, I put it back on the program. And again, goodwill. I didn't know I had so much goodwill. I had friends who I never knew liked me for whatever reason. I never believed that those people had done one or two things for are people that were going to come back to say thank you. So the goodwill I had cultivated before Crime Fighters came to be was also one thing that I had to reap when Crime Fighters started. But funding the program has never been easy.
We were coming back from Abuja about maybe 2 years ago or something, and the producer just about got lucky and got one space on the flight and got out of town. We didn't have enough money anymore because this is also not easy to raise money to put this project together. We had to call one of the staff in Lagos. Look, go and look at one place where maybe we might be able to put money together so that we can at least come back home. It was towards Christmas. The entire system was shutting down. And the young man brought the money to us in the place. So the producer managed to go. I still needed to pick up a few shots around the force headquarters. Okay, so when we now tried to come back to Lagos, there was no bus to come, no public cars to come. And so eventually we ended up on one of the luxurious buses, and this staff and myself, and somewhere very close to Lagos. So we traveled at night. Typically, as a matter of rule, we try not to travel at night. It's really not safe. The roads are bad, and then again, you've got to, we're all human beings. Even the people who work in the system, they have wives and children. You want to make sure that you've done your best to preserve lives. And then armed robbers started to shoot along that express road and all of that. And it was a very nasty experience because we drove into Lagos with, I think, a bad radiator. The driver man was bending over the steering like that. So not even looking at the road per se. Anything just to get out of the way of bullets and all of that. And then some other people were still stuck there.
Yeah, it was a very bitter experience. I think I was coming to Lagos in one of the ABC sleeper buses just a few days to Christmas, I think about 3 years back. And we were just getting into Lagos. Man, it was a horrible experience. I think our bus was number 3 on the lane. Armed robbers just blocked the road, and there was a long chain of luxurious buses. So they were searching and attacking each bus. In fact, our driver took a suicide mission. He started the engine, then told everybody to be at alert. He just moved, almost dismantled the roadblock and moved. But in that process, they sprayed the bus, injured some people, and then they blew up, I think, one of the tires behind, and even the radiator. But we told the driver, in fact, they smashed the windscreen even. The driver had to go down with one hand. He still managed to take the vehicle towards town. Believe me, it was a hell of an experience, but we thank God we all survived.
By the time we got to the bus station in Lagos, there was a lot of pandemonium. Thank God, da. Bullet had hit people in the vehicle. Two people in that vehicle. And so they rushed them to the hospital when we got to Lagos. And so I brought out the camera. Let's quickly grab opinions from people, and so that at least we can bring this experience to the viewers so that they can learn something when they say don't travel at night. Especially, look, plot it for day. I mean, one knows that there are times when you really don't have a choice, and sometimes you just do it. So by the time I said, oh, bring the tripod now, I need to put the camera on the tripod. So the man brought the tripod, and there was this huge gash in the tripod. A bullet had torn the part of that tripod open. So these are things that you look back on and you really give thanks to God, and that you're still alive. It's not an easy thing to do. But then you see, like they say in show business, the show must go on.
Believe you me, we did 8 months in this place without having to visit our homes. The only time we have to go to our homes is perhaps on Sunday. Go back to our homes, get our clothes changed, come back to the studio, and remain all through the week, the month. It was fun.
Well, it was a big challenge, but it was a different kind of fun.
Viewers may have noticed that when we started with reconstruction. They will recollect that we had some cases reconstructed. The popular Yetunde Peters saga was actually reconstructed, and people didn't believe, they thought it was real. And we would like to go back, or we will be going back to the issue, to the time of reconstruction. We had to slow down on reconstruction because the issue of funding was a bit tight.
I look forward to a project that will be expanded still. There were a whole load of things we really, really wanted to do. People are always saying, oh, come on now, that story of Captain Peters that you people did was fantastic. You should bring more reconstruction and all of that. It is the same team that will do this reconstruction that will travel to Katsina and Abuja and Calabar and Sokoto and go still to France and go to Germany and America. So, we spread ourselves thin. I pray that there will be more support for the project so that we can actualize more of some of the things we put down on paper. We need to do more reconstruction. We also need to bring in the civilians more so that we can have more vox pop, let people speak their minds more. And let us, so that the police, because we have a more civilized police now where, it's not about go and catch that man that said the IG is a bad man. Look, if you feel but then again, so the IG gets a lot of kudos. So if once in a while one individual, you see, and that's democracy for you. If one individual says, hey, I don't feel comfortable about this, that's somebody voicing his opinion. You look at the bigger picture. Many more people say the police is better off today. Many more people say, let us fund security to be better in this land. I mean, more guns are imported for the police now. The salary packages get better. The welfare packages get better. You see, if we haven't achieved anything, that alone is great. And then so I just pray that at the end of the day, when we're maybe a little older than this, when the people behind the scene begin to clock 50 and things, they can look back and say, in one little way, they all taught, or we all collectively touched the lives of the citizens of our land positively.